Hello and welcome to Fabrication Techniques, a series of short videos providing instruction on how to properly fabricate DuPont Corian solid surface. This segment covers seaming and edge buildup with an emphasis on private collection colors. The procedures for seaming Corian can be found online at fabmanual.dupont.com in Chapter 10, Seaming Corian. Special care should be taken when fabricating the private collection. Please refer to PDF K25702, Corian Private Collection Fabrication Techniques for more details. DuPont warrants the performance of the seams for 10 years. That's why it's mandatory to use DuPont Corian joint adhesive. However, the seam appearance is not warranted since there's not a representative standing in your shop to approve the appearance of every seam that you make. We do have an unwritten guideline we call the 3-foot rule. If we can't detect the seam appearance from 3 feet away, it's inconspicuous and it passes the test. That being said, all seams should be less than 5 mils or 5/1000ths of an inch in width. If you're wondering how we can tell the seam is 5/1000ths of an inch in width or less, we measure the seam with using a pocket measuring microscope with a light attachment. When a seam is viewed through the microscope, the built-in measuring reticle projects an image of a measuring scale onto the seam. Measurements as small as 1/1000th of an inch may be accurately, quickly, and easily made. Let's discuss seaming countertops longer than 144 inches or wider than 30 inches. As Corian is manufactured, the batch is continuously poured. It is cross-cut at 145 inches and trimmed to 30 inches wide. The particulate disbursements are random patterns, as are the veining patterns. This means they are not repetitive as in laminates. If you notice a slight change in the amount of particulate along one edge when creating a countertop wider than 30 inches, reverse the pattern. This will allow the particulate patterns to blend more consistently. In the private collection, and all other families of colors, keep the sheets running in the same direction to blend the random veining. To color match Corian, check the sequence numbers on the side or the bottom of the sheet. The sequence numbers should be within 50 plus or minus of each other. Prior to any fabrication, it is the fabricator's responsibility to ensure that the sheets of Corian are color matched. Miter seams. The two rules to remember are no seams at the inside corner and no square inside corners. This includes edge buildup. In order to adhere to these rules, we must face apply a piece of color matched Corian to the front edge of the deck. This moves the seams out of the corner and allows us to create a minimum half-inch radius in the inside corner. Here we show the miter seam upside down. Notice the reinforcement strip. All seams must be reinforced with a strip of half-inch thick Corian when using half-inch thick material for the countertop. Be sure to refer to the fabrication guide for reinforcement strip details. Also notice inside corner blocks. This prevents the edge buildups from meeting at the inside corner and creating a square inside corner. Here's an example of what it will look like prior to applying the joint adhesive. This is an example of a circular miter. Your eye will tend to follow straight lines. Anytime you can break that up, it will assist in making a more inconspicuous seam. Remember inconspicuous. It means not readily noticeable. Do not use invisible. That means you can't find it or you can't see it. There's a big difference. Always use inconspicuous seams. This is an example of a fan miter. A step miter. An offset seam. This is the most used technique for all colors of Corian. The seam is often 5 inches out of the corner since the sheet is 30 inches wide and the countertop is 25 inches deep. So it allows us to follow the following policies. No seam at the inside corner. Seam is at least 1 inch past the end of the radius. It leaves room for at least a half-inch radius. and there are no square inside corners. As you can see in this photo, we do not recommend perpendicular seams in the private collection. The trick is to make sure the veining is moving the same direction. You'll need to have a seam every 30 inches. The S-seam. It is undoubtedly the best method for creating an inconspicuous seam within the private collection. It has achieved fantastic results. Whichever method you choose, you'll need to create or purchase a template. Remember, when fabricating these more labor-intensive options, figure into your pricing the time and materials required to accomplish the results. Show your customer options and explain why one costs more than the other. Edge details and build-ups. The drop edge or stand-up edge, the most used edge detail by fabricators everywhere. While it will work, it will not provide you with the best results for the private collection. In this example, you simply glue a 1/2 inch by 1 inch piece on end to the bottom of the countertop. When routing the squeeze out or excess adhesive from the front edge of the countertop, you must have a minimum of 3/8 inch thickness remaining. If you don't have 3/8 of an inch left, simply glue an additional material behind the edge strip. By the way, over routing that front edge affects the amount of your overhang. Be sure to check it. When using the drop edge method, this is one example of the proper way to create an inside corner. Place blocks in the corner, butt the edge strips and the 45-degree edge strips to the corner blocks, adhering them with joint adhesive. Make sure the edge strips align with the back of the corner block. Create a minimum 1/2 inch radius in the inside corner. The alternate method is to align the back of the corner blocks with the back of the edge strips. Then reinforce the butt seam with the 45-degree edge strips. Make sure the 45-degree edge strips go past the seam it is reinforcing by at least 1 inch. Then you create your minimum 1/2 inch radius in the inside corner. Here's what a drop edge will look like in the private collection. Notice the difference between the face of the material and the edge of the material and the way they interact when they are seamed together. The stack edge. This is accomplished by stacking 2 pieces of 1/2 inch by 1 inch material, top to bottom and top to bottom. Do not stack them bottom to bottom. This makes a much stronger edge than the previous detail and allows the veining to flow better. The inside corner should be stacked using 2 different size corner blocks and staggering the seams. The outside corner seams should be offset to create a stronger outside corner. Here's a great example of a stacked edge in the private collection. The V-grooved edge. When V-grooving, the machine typically applies a clear packing tape to the sheet, then cuts a 90-degree angle out of the material, but not through the tape. The tape will then act as a hinge once the edge is folded up. This is a very fast and economical method for fabricating Corian, and it works especially well with the private collection since the veining will transition over the edge detail. Once the V-groove is cut, it is cleaned with denatured alcohol and the adhesive is applied. Then you simply fold up the edge. The inside corner is fabricated differently when we V-groove. Think of it as fabricating parts, not countertops. Part 1 is V-grooved with the front edge and the return edge. Part 2 is V-grooved with the front edge. The 2 parts are butt together, a corner block is inserted into the front edge, and then the back sides of the edge strips are reinforced. Because we are using the V-groove method, we must create a 1 inch inside radius corner. Here's a great example of a V-grooved edge. Parkside is committed to helping you achieve a successful outcome on each project. We look forward to working with you and thank you for watching. To obtain further information, contact your local Parkside representative.